Ladies and gentlemen, we're back for another one. We're back for another podcast. Wow, I'm so consistent lately. We have we have CCMA coverage happening on a chat with Matt for the next while, and joining me is another Canadian songstress, Elyse Saunders. Elyse, how are you?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thanks so much for having me. I'm glad we could finally do this.
Yes, it's been in the works for a little bit. I had some stuff happen in my life and it caused me to rework everything, but now we're back. We're rolling. I finally have you on. You are one of the more interesting people that I'm watching right now in the country space because one, there's so many of you doing so many different things, but I absolutely love the new song that you just put out recently. Jasper sent it to me sent with the video. I really love that.
Thank you.
Um, and I'm just curious about your journey and kind of how you got into country. Like what kind of helped start your career, or at least put you in the direction towards country music?
Well, I would say country music has always had an influence on me because I'm from Peterborough, Ontario. And for the longest time when I was a kid, that was the only thing that was played on radio was country music. So it's part of my roots. But I've always grown up loving all kinds of music. We had a lot of music playing in the house. So I think that's where you can hear a lot of my different influences in country. But really early on, when I got into the scene, it was through singing competitions. I was always an at-home songwriter. I loved being a little entertainer and always want to be on stage. So that was my first place to be able to find a platform to perform on. And I quickly outgrew that because I've never been one that has enjoyed competition, but it was a great learning spot. And it's where I met my first mentor, Cyril Rawson, from my hometown of Peterborough. And he kind of took me under his wing and really showed me what it was to record in the studio and how to bring your authentic voice and style and be able to tell a story through tones and how you use your voice to be able to make a song come alive. And then, yeah, it was crazy at a young age at that happening because I was still in high school. I was at the end of high school and I didn't really realize you could make a career of this. And then with all this going on, I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I know that I could do it. So, um, he took me under his wing. I worked with amazing people super early on. And then I wanted to really just develop my writing skills and my performance skills and all those things. So I spent time self developing and then have released more music. And we're at the point we are now.
Well, first off, shout out to Peterborough. I absolutely love Peterborough. It's one of my favorite places to go play and to go visit a lot of friends. What was life like growing up in Peterborough as a country? Because like for me specifically, I was working a lot in the rock genre and the punk genre, the metal genre. So like, what was the country scene out in Peterborough? Like, are you playing like the Red Dog, for example? Were you playing the venue? Like, what? Talk to me about some of that Peterborough life.
Yeah. So Peterborough, I didn't get a chance to play a lot of bars or that scene for a lot before I had moved. So, but I did definitely played Red Dog. That's a historical spot in Peterborough. If you don't play Red Dog at some point in your life, you haven't done the full experience as a musician yet. So yeah, that's a cool spot, and it's never changed. And I had an opportunity to open in front of ACM artist Derek Rattan. He's killing it as a songwriter out there right now, and that was at our Peterborough Music Fest, which there was 10,000 people there. And at that point, I'd only played probably the most to 500 people. So that was my big lift off point. And then from there, I spent a lot of time throughout Toronto and Port Credit, Mississauga area because they have quite a live scene there, and just trying to spread my wings, meet as many people as I could, and be really influenced by people that I looked up to and learn by doing it.
Absolutely. And something else you mentioned, which part of the reason why I am doing this CCMA coverage and talking to all our artists is because something that has continually come up in the country genre and every country artist I talk to, and they're the ones who usually bring it up first. It's the focus on authenticity, whether it be authenticity in your writing and the music and the way you're presenting your voice. Uh, Talk to me about some of the process from like when you started writing versus kind of how you approach writing now.
Yeah, I would say when I first started writing, it was from a place of not really knowing how to write. I just started writing. And I was actually very influenced by my mom, who was an at-home songwriter. So I just remember discovering her sheets of lyrics and thinking that was such a cool way to express yourself. And the way she wrote was with kind of poem structure. So that's how I first started writing as a kid. And then I started looking up song lyrics and seeing how my favorite songs were structured, and started figuring out like this is how you write a song. And then I would say, yeah, from that point, I've always been authentic in like the type of writing. Because I want it to come from experience. And for me, it's a bit of an outlet. But I would say where I improved was just through co-writing. I love co-writing. I love collaborating. And in being in the scene, I guess getting into it pretty early on, I would pick writers that I thought were amazing and I looked up to, and I would try to always write up and learn from them. So, and also working with Cyril Rawson really early on, he's a hit songwriter. So we would spend hours in his studio just taking piece by piece each of his lyrics. So all of these people have had an influence on me as a writer now. And then I think the most important thing is as a writer is that you find your authentic voice. Is all of those writers have their own style. So I've been able to find my authentic voice as a songwriter, which is its own structure and the way I might say something compared to somebody else.
Have you dealt with the conflicting feeling that most musicians or writers get, at least at one point or another, where you see the success of the commercialization of music in apps like TikTok and seeing people focus on writing more for a viral moment as opposed to telling a story? Have you dealt with that sort of conflict during your writing?
I haven't yet, but I definitely see that that's now being factored into things. I think the best way though is to just write as many songs as possible. And then if there is a song that fits within that little realm, which it's bound to happen at some point, then try to pick it that way. But I think the cool thing with TikTok is it's very organic and the songs that do well on there, because they could be different from one song to the next. And you don't necessarily know which one's going to take off. So I think, again, it just comes down to being authentic. And even if it is like silly TikTok style, it's like maybe authentic to that artist or whatever. It just comes down to that, how you sell it.
Yeah, that really is the approach kind of with TikTok, because it's an app that's really grown a lot in the past few years because of the pandemic. Because a lot of us were isolated, a lot of us were looking for that personal connection to have with someone, or at least feel something. And something kind of tying back to the country genre that I've always noticed is it's a group of people that are willing to put their soul on the line to kind of bare their bones and express whatever they're really feeling. Why do you think that that kind of thing is more, I don't want to use the word accepted because it's accepted in all genres, but it's more celebrated in country to be that vulnerable and to kind of put yourself out there?
That's a good question. I think that stems from just the roots of country and where it started from. It's always been very authentic, the kind of stories that have come out of country and those heartbreak songs or different things that people have gone through in their journey that people can relate to. And they're like, oh, like this sounds like my story. And I think that's where people have always gone to country, is because they want those songs that feels like it was written for them. And that's what's done really, really well for so long. So I think all of us country artists have been drawn to that because of we're songwriters, we love to write, but also to be able to share real stories. So when an artist is picking their genre, I think that's a big part of it. I know it was for me, really early on with my producer. He had said, you could sing everything. What genre would you choose? And I had said country because I liked that you could be yourself and treated like a human being and share real stories from different experiences, whether it's your own or somebody else's.
And, and that's what I think just the industry needs more of in general, because tying it back for a moment to a more commercialized aspect, I absolutely love that people are willing to do whatever they can to get money and get the back, all that. I respect all that. But at a certain point, you have to kind of look at yourself and what you're doing and and think about the impact that what you're doing is having on not only you, but on the people that consume the product that you are putting out into the world. And with the way the world is now, I feel like we need a lot more of an authentic kind of approach when it comes to writing, because in the country genre, it's very open, very freeing. And then while other genres are more commercialized or focus on more materialistic kind of things, that kind of stuff.
I 100% agree. And I think that's just because of where our world has gone in the last 2 years. It's really forced us all to stop and to, I guess, everything has changed. It's maybe made us all a little more humble or got to a place where we want that real connection with people because we were all going through different struggles at that time. And I think the more we understand that we all go through the same experiences, that's what helps us get through things, is when you feel that connection. And um, places like TikTok actually do that really, really well, because it is all about that. And that's where these songs, I think, are shining, because it's real connections with real songs and real people.
That's why I think the pandemic, I look at it kind of as a blessing and a curse, because a curse obviously made lives lost and destroyed many aspects of our society. But at the same time, it forced people to be more reflective on themselves and to think about things more long term and how what they do can affect. And that's also why people leaned into apps and music and art and just trying to find escapes, is because they all that was taken away from them. They just wanted something to feel. And I think because of that, writers really took this past couple of years and not being able to do shows or anything and just allowed themselves to not only learn more about themselves as a creative, but who they are as writers. And I'm excited to see, especially in 2022, once people start really rolling out their album cycles and really start doing their tour runs again, we're going to see who took that time of pause to build on what they did before. What was the camp for you and your team like during these past couple of years? Because I've been kind of asking everyone this, because uh, country artists handle it so much more differently than I think other genres. And I think it's just because of that, the twang of authenticity and also that drive for the live show, because country live shows are completely different from a lot of other genres.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. For me, it was actually in the middle of me finishing my project as well as releasing the very first song from the project, which was my song Free. And I went back and forth with my team quite a bit, and just trying to figure out what would be the best way to do this, because obviously it's a foreign world, and how do you release music in a totally different time. And I remember just being a little bit nervous and thinking, well, maybe I should hold off. And we just talked about different things, and we all came to the same conclusion, and that was that music heals. People need music no matter what time. And it was really, really interesting and really cool to see how people did respond to my music, and especially that song at that time. I had these songs already before the pandemic, but it felt like they came at a perfect time in the pandemic, because of the messages and the feel. And Free, it responded so well, and to see the connection between people was amazing and so unexpected. And that showed me a lot. And I also really made an effort to put a lot of video content out there, like video vlogs and music videos, and anything that would help me to connect to my audience as best as possible, and that they could be brought in the journey and feel like we were still connected even though we weren't seeing each other in person. So I mean, that was my approach. I wanted to kind of break down that wall and connect to them as much as possible. Um, and it wasn't like a super conscious effort being like, oh, I'm going to release Free during the pandemic, it's going to blow up. It was more like, okay, we're going to try this. There's no rules at this time. I'm going to just try things and have fun with it and see if people like it. And it was really neat to see how they responded. And I do believe music heals. And it's been this real snowball effect ever since then, and how people are connecting.
Absolutely. And I commend you on focusing on the video content, because a lot of artists that I've talked to, and this is in every genre, there always seems to be that disconnect between creating that content to engage with their audience and also that just that connection with the audience on a more personal level. Did you find it difficult to come up with ways of creating content that showed who you were as opposed to you as an artist just trying to connect with your fans?
It was kind of a combination of both. Like I say, when I write, it's either through my own experiences or experiences that I've been inspired by. So I just did a bunch of writing with myself in mind, but also the audience that I was going to be giving it to. I come from a background of playing at a lot of country nightclubs. I spent a couple of years really doing that and spending a lot of time doing it and building quite a fan base that way, and learning what kind of music that audience responded to. And it was a mixture of, well, mostly university college kids, but there would be also all ages there, and just to see what resonated with people. So I always kept them in mind. I thought, well, this is my audience. This is who I love entertaining and performing to. So I keep them in mind basically when I am writing. I write with my authentic voice, but keep them in mind with melodies and production and how I think they might like the song, or I guess giving them a song that I think that they would love.
See, it's interesting for you to hear that you have that aspect of keeping the audience in mind of how they respond, because for a lot of writers, and I'll throw myself in this box, like for me, when I write music, it's very much a in my own head kind of experience, and I kind of separate myself from that audience aspect while I'm writing it. Do you find it challenging to kind of have the ability to write authentically yourself and bringing that element of what the audience likes in? Does it ever clash heads with each other, or is it more of like it melds together in a nice cohesive kind of blob, if you will, of
Yeah.
music?
Yeah, I would say it has melded together in a cohesive blob, as you mentioned. um, and that's just been over time, though, because I mean, I've been in the industry for quite a while. I've been releasing music for quite a while, and trying different things. And I feel like the place that I'm at now, it's all working together. Whereas maybe in the past, I didn't quite have that identity. Or like I didn't quite know who I was even as a person. I was still just, coming into my own, and or like figuring out who I wanted to be as an artist, and what kind of messages I wanted to share, and what kind of impact, and all these things. So it's been over a course of time. So I would say it's only at this point now that it's all working together. And that's I guess through a combination of a lot of thinking, um and a combination of trying things, and seeing response, and just letting the things happen as well, and not overthinking it, but yeah, just kind of taking it all in as I go.
The reality of being an artist is so much more difficult than a lot of people think, because, and I'm sure you can attest this somewhat, artists have a bit more of a sensitivity, and with that sensitivity comes a great variety of life experience that can be interpreted in 100 different ways. And because you have that writing ability, you can express it in so many different ways. During and I wanted to touch on this because I'm glad you brought up the trials and tribulations of actually finding who you are as an artist, essentially throwing something to a wall and hoping it sticks. It's such a difficult thing and such a trying thing to do. What were some of the things that, like, you said to yourself, or someone gave you advice for, where you had those moments of, I'm not sure that this is going to work out, like this is things are just aren't working, things are coming together? What was the mentality and what pushed you through to the other side during that period?
That's a really good question as well. I would say at that time, when I was going through all of those moments of developing as an artist, and really just, yeah, trying to figure out what the next steps would be, and if I tried something that didn't do as well as I hoped, or I would try to open doors and they would close the doors, whatever it is. I've always had a strong emotional support team, is what I like to say. My family's always had my back, and I have certain friends that I can talk to. And I think that's important, is to have a sounding board and somebody that's going to give you the honest truth and not tell you what you want to hear. But somebody that also is going to give you a soft landing as well if you're down. But my dad actually has been a big one for me in my business mentorship as well, and just trying to come at everything from a less a less personal approach when it comes to business, and not take things to heart, because we have two different worlds. We have the artist brain, which you say is the sensitive side, and that's the compassionate side, where it's like you can take your whole environment and absorb it all and write it into songs and create. But then you have to be able to do business and shut those things off sometimes, in order to make the right decisions. Or else, if it's all choices made from an emotional place, it's not always the best place. So it's finding a balance, and that's taken me a lot of time to learn how to be able to do that.
That balance is so, it's literally the golden ticket to the chocolate factory that every artist is trying to find, especially the young artists. Because the advice I give young artists, especially because those that trying to get deals with majors or indies or whoever it is, like you have to have that infrastructure built, and having that infrastructure built means having that balance of being who you are as an artist, using your voice and not allowing anything to throw that off, while at the same time making decisions for the music that are best for the music. But then you might have contradictions on one side as an artist being like, well, as an artist, I don't agree with doing it this way. And that's where this whole balancing act kind of is. And now where you are now, you're putting out the new EP, everything is rolling, and 2022 is slated to be, I'm assuming, a very big year for you and your team, just based on early projections I'm seeing. And I think people just really need to understand the importance of the song itself, because without that song fueling the tank and helping push forward the project, things aren't going to go the way people think. And that could be a combination of trying multiple things or just trying something once and not working. And it's such a difficult path. And for any young artists listening to this, please don't let this discourage you from a career music, because career music is absolutely one of the best things you can have as an
Oh,
artist.
yes.
But it's so trifling, both personally and then business wise. And the deeper you get into this business, the more sharks there are, and those sharks can pull you under and chew you up and spit you out. And it's a scary time, but it's also an exciting time for the business, because it's just, we don't know exactly where anything's going to go, because everything is so up in the air. Do you kind of have a guess on where things are going to go, or at least do you think people are going to have an appreciation for music more now, especially in the live environment, because we haven't had it for 2 years?
Yeah, all of those are good points. I'm just going to say quickly, I think it's so important to any new artist to go in with the thought that you have to be in it for the long haul, because it's most likely not going to happen overnight. Take the time to invest in learning and growing, and like you say, create the best music that you can, and people will resonate with that, and then all the other stuff will come together, and really learn about the business as well, so that you can apply the skills to really promote that song forward. And with that said, though, I agree that we're at kind of a turning point of where music and the industry could go. And we're already seeing things change slightly and evolve. And I think we're going to see more independent artists rise, and really build these online authentic followings. And live music is going to be appreciated, which it's always been appreciated at the right places. But I think the connection of that festival, of feeling the music with your friends beside you, all those things, it's when we're able to do that full force, it's going to be humongous. I know I miss that, is that energy of everybody together. So I think that's going to be really big, and we will see more of like this cross between online shows and in-person shows. I think there's room for giving somebody maybe in Mexico or the UK, if you're in Canada, giving them your concert experience, while giving your fans that experience in person. I think there's gonna be a blend of the two. So I see that happening, and we're gonna definitely see a lot more of, like, we've been using the word authentic quite a bit in this conversation, because I think year of 2022 will be a lot. You'll see a lot of authentic music coming out.
And I definitely agree with the point of the rise of the independent artist. It's because people are now starting to realize you don't necessarily need the labels, and this is not to discredit labels or anything like that. Labels are absolutely wonderful, but I can also go to a loan and get a I can go bank go to a loan, get a bank and get a loan with a much lower interest rate and fund my record that way. That's also a possibility for a lot of people, and that's what a lot of people are doing now. And having that ability to have the income, but the biggest thing is team. You need to have that right team of people around you. And once again, saying the word authentic, you need to have people that are there for the right reason, because a lot of people will latch on to something if they see that it's growing and then try to get a piece of it. But it's making sure you have the right team of people around you. At least talk to me about the people that you have around you, some of the team that you've built and how you have brought them in and have become part of what you're doing now.
Yeah, it keeps evolving, but it really, well, and that's the thing. Like I said earlier, I've been in this industry for quite a while, so my team has um, changed over the years. But I would say with the most success that I've been seeing with the combination of music and my place in the business and the live show, all these things coming together, and then these team members that really have my back and believe in me, and they work really hard and they're so pro, that all makes a big difference. So I would say the first one that kind of joined everything together was my publicist, Jasper, who you've talked to. And he's been great with kind of connecting all of the dots and making sure everybody is this cohesive team working together. And I've had great radio tracker marketing, that's been helping me figure out how to increase my marketing strategies and how to advertise and get my music out to the right audiences, and finding that market that is to me Elyse Saunders the artist. So all of that has made a big difference. And I also have a great video team. Like I say, I've been releasing so much video content, which has been really important to me, and that's with Roadhouse Productions. And we work really, really well together and collaborate to create some really neat material that's been getting great response too. So yeah, it's interesting how it all is working together cohesively with, I don't know, it's almost like with a creative flow, which is nice.
A flow state.
Yes, yes.
Having a team around you that not only pushes you and propels you to new levels, keeps you grounded, but also authentically believes in what you're doing, who you are as an artist, and what you're trying to present as an artist is such an important thing. Because having, what's that old saying? You have too many cooks in the kitchen and something's going to burn. Like, having the right amount of cooks, or at least having the right understanding of the direction to follow so nothing burns, is so important. And the best analogy I used for it was when I used to work with a band a few years back. I always use the analogy of the artist is the one driving the boat. Everyone else is just telling them where to steer and not hit rocks. Like,
Mm-hmm,
that's
mm-hmm.
that's the best way I can look at it, because this industry is so crazy and you need those right people around you. But
You
anyway,
do.
yes, Elyse, this has been a great conversation. I very much enjoyed it,
Me too.
and I know we're gonna meet up at the CCMA weekend. We're gonna have some more great conversations, and it's gonna be absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. Where can people find you and what you do?
Well, thank you, Matt, for the chat. Really thankful to be on your show, and I love what you do, and you bring really honest conversation between the music world and the listeners. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
People can find me at ElyseSaunders.com as my main hub, and that will connect them to all the different social platforms that they love to be on. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of those places, and you can find my music on any of the listening platforms.
And I got links for a bunch of Lisa's stuff down in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube. thank you all for watching. I got more CCMA coverage coming soon, and you'll be seeing a lot of fun stuff from the CCMA weekend. So anyway, y'all, take it easy. Peace.